Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Ashley Taylor. I'm an Army veteran with Operation Red Wings Foundation. And joining me today are...
Hi, my name is Beach Pace. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I'm also the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a Hillsborough City Councilor.
Wow, nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maysel Villanueva. I'm a Marine veteran, and I'm with Washington County Solid Waste and Recycling.
Welcome, Maysel.
Thank you.
I am Ashley Thompson, and I am an Army veteran.
Welcome, Ashley.
I'm Sherry DeWata, and I'm a U.S. Navy veteran with Red Feather Ranch.
Thank you for being here, Sherry. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. We're going to have a complex, funny, hopefully, and real conversation about the relationship dynamics of being a woman in the armed forces. There's so much ground to cover, from being single, dating, married, children, not having children. So first, some context.
Why are we talking about relationship dynamics and women in the armed forces? Hello, I'm Vicki Horn, Marine and Washington County Veteran Services Supervisor. Relationship dynamics for women in the military can be a complex obstacle field. Being a woman in a male-dominated field with a history of sexual discrimination, harassment, and assault creates a system of ever-changing barriers and boundaries that women have to navigate just by simply existing and enlisting. From 1951 to 1976, enlisted women in the Army would be involuntarily discharged because of becoming pregnant, adopting a child, or having a stepchild in their home. Their male counterparts, however, would receive no change in their status or employment upon fathering a child, adopting a child, or having a stepchild in their home. Setting up a separate system from the start creates systemic inequality, even when the official barriers are changed. When a woman comes into a new unit, she is warned to not be the barracks slut, while at the same time, she is the focus of attention from male members in her unit. The pressure of being a woman, single, dating, or not, can bring rumors of romantic partners, sexuality, and demeanor. Be a bitch or a butch, but don't be a slut, are words and phrases of harassment and control directed towards female soldiers. We are talking about the relationship dynamics for women in the military because it puts a face and a voice to the pressure of being a woman and existing in the military.
So, Beach, you've been with your spouse for over 20 years.
Yes.
Did you guys meet in the Army?
No, we didn't meet in the service, but we met through a mutual contact. But we often joke about how it's good that we didn't meet in the military because we're both lesbian, and at the time we were serving under the don't ask, don't tell rule. So had we met, we wouldn't have been able to really act upon anything or do anything or date because if we had, we would have been kicked out.
I'm so glad that does not exist anymore.
Me too.
I'm sorry you had to experience that during service.
Yes.
Man. Now, what was dating life like for any of y'all in the military?
I was single.
Yeah.
So I was single, and I stayed in the barracks. And I think the dating scene, I have so many thoughts. I feel like I want to carry on what Beach was saying. So my caveat to what Beach was saying is I served after that law had passed, like it was no more. But I think the stigma and like the underlying notion of that was still in existence, because I can remember like my battle buddies, if they did identify as gay, they didn't want to be out with it, even though it was like it's okay now. So they would have like contract marriages in the military. But more personally, I was single, and I think the hard thing about being single in the Army is you're either well known because you're sleeping with everyone, or if you're not, you kind of get labeled. If you're hanging out with the male counterpart, it's like, oh, are you guys dating? Or you're doing something? No, we're just friends. I work with the guy. So it has its own little challenges.
Yes,
Yeah.
the perception.
And the perceptions could be really bad, you know,
Yes.
if you were perceived as sleeping around. And so it was almost dangerous to even just get coffee with someone. For me, I welcomed it when I got that label, because then that pulled me further away from the impression of that I'm gay, and therefore saved or helped maintain my career.
Right.
So if I was seen having coffee with somebody and then rumors flew about it, while the rumors weren't great, I welcomed it because it protected my career.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
No.
That's really interesting that you brought that up, because I actually just remembered that I would have different experiences when I was hanging out with a group of 2 or more women, and all of us together, we would be friends. We would be the I don't know how to say it, the bitchy female Marines. But if I was just when we went to different C schools, and I would be hanging out with one of those same women, but just by ourselves, and we were still the bitchy Marines, they would be like, "Oh, y'all must be
You guys are
together."
together.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "No, we're just friends, and we're." But I never have talked about this in this circle before, but I'm actually bisexual, and I remember countless times of being attracted to another woman, especially another female Marine, and trying to figure out the dynamics of like where it could go and where it couldn't, and who I could be comfortable, how we could be comfortable around other people or not. It was very,
When
like,
you were in, was it still?
it was still don't ask, don't tell. And I remember I would bring it up to a friend, and you know, they'd be like, "Oh, gross." Okay, I'm like, okay, I guess I can't
Be open with this.
that.
To you.
Yeah,
And then you're forever worried about that person
yeah.
breaking your confidence.
Yes.
And it was such a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with all that, we're trained to trust the person to our left and our right, but
Yes.
to question that trust in our leadership and our peers.
There's trust to a point.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had to be really careful on who you shared that stuff with.
Yeah. So it never went outside of the barracks or a room. It never went out socially, and it just couldn't. I wasn't comfortable, and I guess not even comfortable, like realistically. It was just scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's your career.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're young and you have these feelings. You're in this environment where if you express those feelings, you lose your career.
Yes.
But how do you deny your feelings? And you're also, we're in that age in our 20s where we're just trying to figure out relationships in this very constrictive environment.
Yeah, along with navigating the
navigating.
world
Thank you.
and
Growing up.
growing up,
Yes.
and then managing the expectations of the other person too. I went on dates not realizing they were dates, and then when I didn't reciprocate a hug, or seemed like one guy wanted a kiss, the next day he was very closed off, very cold. And then I was like, well, what's going to happen with our working relationship
Right. You
if
have
I
to work
can't
with
communicate
this
with
person,
you
in
openly?
close quarters.
Right.
And also assert what you did and didn't want. So you don't reciprocate a hug. So we can't work together now.
Right.
You can't be professional. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why were you expecting a kiss or even more than that?
Right.
Right. Especially
After
you said-
one time
and
going
you
out.
weren't even aware it wasn't.
Yeah, I was. I offered to pay for everything, and it was just this weird dynamic. I didn't understand it. He wasn't upfront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Now,
wonder if that comes with the whole like expectation of women in the military being thought of as sluts, and like we're out there because of a different reason than wanting to like prove our worth and show our badassness. Like we want all the men. all to ourselves.
Yeah.
Um,
There's so many other ways to do that.
Right.
Why would they?
yeah. And I think it's like that expectation of like that's what we are,
Right.
and
Still
we're
so
nothing
much
more.
the systemic difference that males are in charge and the lead, and women are, oh, you poor woman,
Yeah.
who we have to care for you,
Yeah.
and you also have to do stuff for us because we're the men.
Right.
And there was so many dynamics with relationships, whether dealing with different levels of leadership, or dealing with people who are married and not married. And I wonder, Beach, for you, being a gay woman who served in the military, what was it like for you when you wanted to approach dating?
I just didn't.
You just didn't. You just left
No.
that part out.
Yeah, I mean, I would date men, and we would go out. I had a buddy. We went scuba diving a lot together, and so we were just scuba diving buddies. But the rumors flew, and I let them fly.
And you welcomed them.
Yeah, because then I was assumed to be straight because I was also being accused of being gay, almost formally. But yeah, so I just let it go. And I would go out with guys, and there were the expectations. We'd go out and have dinner, I'd pay. And it's like, so, hey, let's head back to my place. I was like, no, thanks. And then I'm a prude, right? It's like,
Yeah.
but a straight prude, right? So I'll take it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
And that's such an interesting, different dynamics of sacrifices that service members make. That's such a huge sacrifice that you chose to put the service first instead of your own personal life because of the rules that were in the service. And I'm so glad you ended up meeting your wife now. And
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. And there was one instance where I was stationed in Italy. My commander was in Germany. I went up there for a dinner, and there was a lieutenant, a female, who went with another female soldier. They went as a couple. And it was a very in-your-face move by this lieutenant. And they danced and everything, and I was just blown away that she had the guts to do it.
that gives me the chills.
Yeah, and she didn't last long.
Did she
Right.
get reprimanded?
Yeah, and then she was out of the unit. I don't know what happened to her, but
She
I'm-
wanted to stand up for it, and
she wanted
paid
and at the time I was just fearful for her. I didn't want to talk to her at all because then I'd be associated with her, and we talked about that before. Just being associated with somebody who could bring your reputation down. So it was a dangerous thing to do. But I watched her and I admired her, and I was also so fearful for her at the same time. And I heard people talking, "You're not doing that crap, are you?" To me. And I'm like, no way, man. And I wasn't. I was telling the truth.
right,
Um,
which was a very calculated decision to choose not
because
to do
then,
that.
then there was never an issue of ethics or honor. So, yeah.
That just says what a great person you are of integrity, Beach. That's
Well, or nobody hit on me.
oh no! It sounds like there was some of that. So I wanted to end on the topic of pregnancy, and this is something that only women face. And I'm going to ask you, Maisel, what was it like being a single mom in the Army, in the Marine Corps?
So I wasn't just a pregnant Marine. I ended up being a single pregnant Marine.
Which are two different things.
Yes. And I also was a single pregnant engine mechanic. And with mechanics, we work with hazardous materials. So automatically, I'm pushed out of my shop. I'm pushed out of my job. I'm given admin work, computer work, or whatever.
Instead of celebrating the beauty that pregnancy is, bringing a child into this world, it seemed like a bad thing.
It was like a mix of, okay, yes, I guess they're trying to take care of me, but also I had to deal with a lot of like, oh, she just doesn't want to like work. Oh, she's just trying to get out of work. Like you're taking the easy way out by being like an admin clerk or whatever. And then when I was breastfeeding, I still couldn't go back to work because hazardous materials. So then I got sent to another MOS 6046 doing what's it called, flight records.
Oh.
And so I was breastfeeding. I was learning a new job that I never went to any school for, and there was a lot of pressure of me being a Marine,
A new mom.
a new mom, but a Marine. I needed to be a Marine in a new MOS. I needed to learn fast. And why can't you learn fast, Mesa? Why do you keep forgetting things? And there wasn't any support of like, mom brain.
Right.
But also I just recently got diagnosed with ADHD, so that explains a lot. But I remember having to just make the decision because I was so disappointed that I was being othered from
Not only for being a female Marine, but a female pregnant Marine to now a female Marine with a child.
Yeah. And so I was pumping, and I was like, you know what? I need to stop. I want to go back to work in my shop. I want to be with my my shop. I want to be a Marine, and I want to stop feeling like I'm being taken stop feeling like I have special treatment.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
From all the relationship dynamics and from experiencing pregnancy to sometimes being even told not to get pregnant, these are so specific to women issues. We will be continuing this conversation, but next we are going to meet some more women veterans, and then Paul Riggs will join us with our feature interview.
For me, it was my uniqueness. What was unique for me and my family, I was the first woman in my family. I was the third person to join the military. So then moving to Okinawa, that was the biggest thrill.
You get a sense of accomplishment. You learn how to respect. It's a feeling that you can ask any veteran, it's just still feeling of pride.
As far as I would say my job skills, the Air Force introduced me to dentistry. I went to tech school and it was like 11 weeks. But what was unique about it is as a dental assistant, I could do some dental hygiene, but eventually the Air Force came up with this health professional scholarship where I went to dental hygiene school while I was active duty for full-time. I went to school for 2 years. I didn't have to worry about active duty responsibilities, but the Air Force paid for my school 100%, my books, my scrubs, and I still got paid my active duty pay. So that was pretty cool.
My guest today is a 25-year retired Air Force Master Sergeant. She is the recipient of the Air Force Achievement Medal and a 5-time recipient of the Meritorious Service Medal, Ms. Carol Roberts. Carol, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. I want to ask you, what brought you to work in the Armed Forces?
Well, I wasn't able to go to college. I was accepted, but the family couldn't afford it. So I decided to join the military. I grew up a military brat. I grew up in Japan, Hawaii, Philippines, all over the States, and I just, I wanted to serve my country too. It was during Vietnam.
What field did you enter into?
Back then, you couldn't select your field. So after basic training, which was in San Antonio, I got an assignment, and I'm reading this paperwork, and I had no idea what it was. So I called my dad to tell him, well, I got this assignment, and I'm going to Fort Belvoir, which was an Army post for my training, the Army Engineering Center, and it said photogrammetric cardiographic analyst specialist. and I told my dad, and he goes, oh, I had people working for me that did that. And I said, well, what is it? And he goes, it's map making. So
That's great. And through map making, you met your husband, you served the armed forces multiple times overseas.
Yes.
Tell me, you ended up finding yourself having some very unique skills and clearances.
We ended up going to Germany in 1976.
Right in the middle of the Cold War.
Yes.
You're in Germany.
Yes. At
Berlin Wall.
Yes.
Like, this is like
well,
what we're talking
we were
about.
not in Berlin.
Right, but this
But
is
we were in West Germany.
Yeah,
yes.
but this is the Germany we're talking about. There's an East Germany, there's a West Germany.
Yes.
It is
and
the
we
Soviet Union.
We were at the Intelligence Research Center.
Yeah. So.
And it was interesting. It was very interesting. We worked at a compound that periodically you'd see these radar, sonar type, not sonar, but radar transmitter, not receivers, pop up along the sides of the walls. And everybody got a big kick out of that.
Right.
And we worked in vaults, and so that nothing could get out.
Do you remember feeling tension just being in Germany, being that close to the Soviet Union, working in intelligence?
Not so much, but working in intelligence, you had to be cautious.
Yeah.
And so, we were told if we met people that we wanted to have friend relationships with or something like that, and they weren't known to anybody else, then we'd not report them, but give a heads up to the security officer or whatever. And my husband and I had met this couple at a fest one time. We hit it off. He was a fireman. She worked as a secretary somewhere. And after the fest, we swung by their house, and we made plans to meet again sometime. And after that was on a weekend, my husband and I both, did what we were supposed to do. We gave the information to the security officer, and we didn't think much of it. So we were out shopping, and we were near where they had lived. So we figured, let's stop by and see them. And we showed up at the house, and they were missing. The house was empty, everything.
Oh my gosh.
So
what went through, what, like, do you remember feeling anything? Did you guys just walk away? Like,
we were like,
compartmentalize? What did you do?
It was kind of a shock, but apparently, they had targeted us.
All right, so I've waited long enough.
Yeah.
I've waited long enough, Carol. Top
Okay.
Gun. Top Gun.
Well, first off, let me finish. We loved it in Germany, and so we did a consecutive overseas tour. And unfortunately, my mom took ill in 1982, and so my father needed help taking care of her. So my husband and I discussed it, and I applied for a humanitarian assignment. And the closest base, because March was closed at the time, the closest base was at Nellis. So we got an assignment to Nellis Air Force Base.
In Las Vegas.
Yes. And a friend of mine recommended me to a unit that I didn't know about and didn't exist that anybody knew about, which is now unclassified. And I ended up being the first female Red Eagle and which is we were a unit that flew uprange, and we flew Soviet aircraft so that the American pilots could fly against our pilots, because this was the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And I worked at Nellis for a while, and finally at Christmas the commander announced that I was going to be the first female to work uprange. And so I ended up flying on Monday and staying uprange, and coming back on Thursday. And I helped the pilots that were former Top Gun pilots, and they had been Top Gun instructor pilots, and they flew some of our aircraft. It was a multi-service unit, and I helped them write the flight manuals, so.
So first question, when did Tom Cruise
Oh,
fly that? No? Okay.
He didn't fly up there.
No, but so when you have the Soviet jets, you have them, you're working with a crew of pilots, a crew of people that are trying to figure out, how does this plane work? How does this work?
Yes. And everything was, in Russian or whatever language where it was obtained from.
Was it isolating, being the only woman Red Eagle and working uprange 4 days out of the week?
Not too. We worked long hours, because pretty much sun up to sundown. And we did have it would be like a recreation area with pool table and back then video machines with televisions, and there was a snack bar and a bar, and it was nice. And I ended up with more big brothers than you'll ever believe. They treated me just like a little sister, so it was great. It was really good.
That's fantastic. Carol, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing your experiences and your stories with us today.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm proud of the work I did.
Thanks, Carol and Paul. Okay, ladies, to wrap up this topic, if you could go back to offer guidance to your younger selves while in the service, what would it be? And Sherry, I'll start with you.
That you're resilient as hell, that there's going to be a lot of BS that comes at you, unfortunately, but you will come out on top no matter what. It's not going to seem like it, and it's going to hurt, but you'll be fine.
That pumps me up, Sherry.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you, yes.
I agree with Sherry.
Ditto, right?
I would tell myself to speak up and not conform. I think it was so easy to conform and be a part of, I have to be in the good club so I won't be labeled or targeted. So speaking up, just as a woman.
Yes, love that. Maisel?
Mine, along with those two, they're so good.
They're so good.
Would be to seek out more women mentors in the Marine Corps, because I saw that the ones who did have those mentors have gone on to do really great things and stay in. So.
Oh, that's
good. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Beach?
These are all really good. I would say two things. One, don't let the yoke of a label weigh you down, because it's their label, not yours. And then focus on competence. Whenever I did well in my job, that cannot be taken away. No one can say anything about you or your performance if you're doing well in that job.
Right.
So just focus, like you said, on on what you're doing and stay the course. And stuff will come at you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an honor to be here with you, ladies. Yes. Thank you all for joining us today in celebrating the 75th anniversary of women being allowed and recognized to serve in the armed forces.